the Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
Hello, and welcome back to the show. I'm Steven Sakach here with this podcast Chief Everything Officer, Tullio Siragusa, and digital marketing rockstar, Ash Maher. In the past, we've talked about this quest for the holy grail of marketing, where your customers love you so much they seem to do the marketing for you. It's not easy to develop, but if you've listened to our episode, you probably have now 100 ideas or so to layer into your business. One of the many secrets to making this happen are surprise and delight marketing and customer service tactics. How businesses can emotionally connect with customers by doing that little something extra and unexpected. So we went into in-depth topic on this discussion last week. And if you're interested in the data on why this is an extremely effective strategy, or interested in the crazy neuroscience around why we as consumers are so engaged by surprise and delight promotions, check out our last podcast. So in that show, we talked about some of the things big brands like Chewy, Ritz-Carlton, American Express, and other large corporations do. Now we want to focus on similar ideas for those surprise and delight tactics for small businesses. So let's talk about some of the challenges here, some of the common obstacles for small businesses with developing these surprise and delight tactics. For me, the first one that comes to mind is obviously budget constraints. You know, the Ritz-Carlton, they had an authorization up to $2,000 per customer to solve problems. You know, no management sign-off needed. That's great for them and their brand. They have that massive lifetime customer value that they're investing in. That's not going to fly for the mom and pop businesses or the smaller businesses out there. And this is where you have to get creative, but it's totally doable. So budget issues come to mind for me, but I think that's totally just a matter of being creative. And that's where our tool for this works really well, is that brainstorming process. So as a reminder, we're getting close to the launch of the Artificial Intelligence Chief Marketing Officer. Get on the wait list at aicmo.io. There are 100 or so tools there that cover about a dozen different areas of helping infuse empathy and humanity into your marketing at scale. So get on that wait list as we roll this out. Tullio, when thinking about common problems for small businesses, you know, trying to create these surprise and delight tactics, what are some of the challenges you see that they have to overcome?
I think the budget one is very common, but often it's actually just an excuse because there's just the biggest constraint is time to actually devote to creating ways to surprise and delight your customers. Small businesses are so busy just getting clients and then delivering value to those clients and the day-to-day running of the business, because they're run pretty thin as it is, that stopping and strategizing and thinking about how can we better serve our clients, how can we delight them, how can we surprise them beyond the transaction they hired us to do or the product they bought from us, that it's often just tossed off into, we don't have the budget for this kind of thing, right? It's an easy way to get out of the work necessary. And I say this with a lot of love because you know, we often will find the common denominator of how we get out of something, right, to justify why we shouldn't do it. The biggest hurdle is actually investing time in it and seeing the value in doing it. And those who do it well. Those who don't know the outcome they could have received because they haven't invested the time. So it's really just being proactive. In my opinion, it's should be no different in how you design your product, how you design your service. It's got to be baked into the whole process. If you've got steps that you've built in terms of how you take an order and then fulfill that order and the post-order follow-ups, within that process, build into it the customer delight process. And so that's often overlooked because it's one of those things you can't really measure 100% in terms of an ROI, but if you do it, it delights the customer. So there's a long-term value, and we've got some data actually we discussed that does it. So that's the biggest hurdle, is just making the time for it, seeing the importance of doing it.
I tell you what, I clocked our tool this time for coming up with the ideas in the brainstorming, and it averaged 8 seconds for 10 ideas. And we're going to go through some of these ideas, but I was, even for AI, that felt fast, but it was just a super brainstorming kickstart, right? And it's like, you may not like all the ideas, but I did like a lot of them. And even off that, if you don't like all of them, they're still like, oh, what if I did this instead? It really helped that brainstorming process. So yeah, time, this is one of the things that tool will certainly solve, is that part of the time element, instead of spending hours or days. Ash,
And the challenge with time, it's the creative process that takes time, and thinking through it. It's like, I don't have the time to do all that stuff. I just need to run my business. So having a tool that does all that for you in 8 seconds, that's like a game changer.
Yeah, it's one of the huge benefits of AI, is anytime you're in that brainstorming sort of mode for anything, is inviting that into the conversation in some way. And it's hard to change that muscle in your head where you're just sitting there and you're thinking and thinking. It's hard to inviting this tool in to change your behavior and speed up that process. Ash, let's go to you on what comes to mind for these challenges for small businesses.
I think just picking back off of Tullio, I think it's the consistency, because it is really hard to take the time to put in the work and come up with all these ideas. And once you do it one time, consistently doing it, it's a challenge, right? And I think that's one of the major pain points that businesses suffer from. It's like, well, short term, we're not getting insane results unless we look at it year to date, long term, be like, oh, wow, all the time we put into our customers and driving all that delight, now I can see the ROI a year from now, right? Or however long it typically takes when you measure it long term. But short term, to get everyone to buy in and stay consistent is a challenge. You have to rally people on something they haven't seen the gold yet, right? Or like try to get them to the promised land and say, hey, no, I promise you it's on the other end of the mountain. But that's the challenge, is rallying people to stay consistent, to creating those delightful experiences for their customers. And then once they see the ROI and the long-term growth, then they're able to be like, okay, no, we're bought in. But it's that initial buy-in until they see the reward at the end. I think that's the big challenge.
I think you absolutely have to build this into systems, right? This is what we talk about with Bliss, build love into scalable systems. But you absolutely have to make this a system. Otherwise, it's just going to be, cast aside after a few weeks or after that initial momentum and impulse. So yeah, that inconsistency, that's huge. And that's why I just think about a system. I need to make this as part of my process.
Yeah.
It also takes some level of humility to say, I'm not really good at that, right? I'm good at doing this. I build a product, I deliver a service. I'm an expert at that. I'm at the top of the game, but creatively finding ways to market and improve my customer relationship, that's not what I'm good at. So, and I don't have the budget to hire someone who's good at that. So that may very well be true. And so it's just kind of like, I can't do it. But with AI, you gain the ability of the top most creative people on the planet. You gain the collective intelligence that comes from having done this thousands of times. The permutations and the examples that have been fed into the system allows you to tap into that kind of level up skill. So it's really, there's no more excuses. You do have the talent. It's available at your fingertip. The time, you don't need a lot of time to do it. And it's something that automatically makes you capable of what you weren't capable of before. So it does, it's an equalizer. So for those companies that could have afforded more creative people, that kudos to them. For those who couldn't, well, there's an equalizer now at play that allows you to play at that level without any hiccups.
Absolutely. Sometimes people just need to step out of their own way. And I think that's a big challenge in business. Some owners just want to be able to do everything or have their hands in everything. So it's a big ego play there as well. But I think be able to have the humility to say, hey, you know what? I think there's this AI that could do all of this for me, or at least help enhance my team. and you think about the big picture goal, then you're able to really get everyone to focus in and believe in creating those systems. At the ownership level too, creating a system and taking the time to put it all together, there's a little bit of faith that you have to have, right? And to Tullio's point, when you have an ego and you're trying to do everything at once, you can't seem to take a step back from possibly hurting your business. That could be a challenge too. It's just sometimes you just be like, hey, there are better tools out there that could think better than I can. Why not leverage them?
Someone shared something with me this morning that is very apropos to this. I imagine a jockey on a racehorse racing down the line. The finish line is right there, and the jockey falls off the horse, and the horse finishes the race anyway.
Yeah, right.
That's what AI will allow you to do. You can fall off the horse. You can get out of your own way, but the horse will win the race for you. I mean, it's like that's I was like, that's a perfect analogy on how technology can enable your success even without you.
Yeah.
So no excuses.
I think, that brings up sort of this concept of just bottlenecking, being the bottleneck in that process. As a leader or business owner, sometimes people are just waiting for you to give you, I got to wait for the answer on this. And you become part of that problem where everything just gets bottlenecked on you. And obviously, I think in terms of this surprise and delight issue, one of the things where it can bottleneck on you is trying to scale this. Like if you've come up with some sort of great idea, but it's either something that you've got to do personally, or, someone has to take a lot of time to do something. You got to think about, hey, can I do that if I have to do it, 10 times, 100 times, 200 times, 1,000 times? Can this scale appropriately with our business? Maybe you've got a high ticket sales and it, doesn't matter. But if you're doing something small where it's, $40 purchase or something, you got to be able to do this over and over and over so that, you're delivering on that. Sometimes that can be easy. Like if you're in a digital business where you've got digital assets, you build one free ebook or guide, you can give that to one person or you can give that to 100,000 people, right? So sometimes that scalability is really easy. But if you're trying to personalize something or do something which is a good idea, is to personalize something. I mean, that'll hit the mark. But you got to make that process easy on yourself. Any other last thoughts before we dive into some of the ideas we got on anything?
I think there's one more. I think the underestimation of expectations. I don't think people or business owners realize how much of a standard customers look at these freebies in their business, where they think they're giving away a bonus and benefiting. Customers look at this as this is the new way of doing things. If you want to earn my business, you're going to go above and beyond and show me that customer service. And I think that's another element too, is just not understanding the current space and the way the market is and how people have a higher standard of expectation and building loyalty to their brand. And once you have that person that's loyal to your brand, the amount of value that person drives. And I don't think they're aware of that either. The value of the brand ambassador is insane, right? And I think that's a huge missed opportunity without understanding that element. And then, and vice versa.
That brings up something really important too, is really understanding who your customers are. You might be the kind of person who runs a small company and doesn't like to haggle, right? But your customers like to haggle. They like to get a good deal. So if you're very fixed on that, you might be alienating the customers who want to feel like they got something more, right? Or so in that case, it may not necessarily be where you have to give away a discount, but they're really just asking for something that makes them feel like they got a good deal. And then, the surprise and delight strategy might fit that particular customer. Then there's the customer who just wants to see very transparently how things are, doesn't want to play games. That's the CarMax customer, right?
Yeah.
But then those guys still like to be delighted too. So maybe the surprise is some little extra, or we're throwing in the mats for free, that kind of thing. Everyone likes a good deal, whether it's coming through a discount or a recognition card or something along those lines that makes the other person feel like that you care about them. it's understanding your customer base is critically important. And small businesses struggle with that. I mean, many of them do well because they came from there. They were customers themselves at one time. So they understand that. But expanding beyond that base requires a little bit more insights, a little bit more creativity. And again, very difficult thing to do when you don't have the budget to hire people who can do that. Very easy to do when you have AI that can help you test out different ideas a lot faster.
And I have to piggyback off Tullio, being someone that worked at CarMax. I actually had the customers that would come in with the mindset that they were haggling. That was the initial conversation, that they were so excited to get a good deal and they were going to leave without getting one. And it was a very awkward conversation where I had to tell them that's not how CarMax does things, But to that point, using an AI that could break down each customer, CarMax thinks they're bringing, I mean, they brought a great solution for people that don't want to haggle and they just want the process to be seamless. But there genuinely is a market of individuals that find joy in the haggling process. And that's a different market, different messaging, different conversation. So that person was affected.
Sorry, CarMax, I'll sell the car to you, but I'm not going to buy it. I need to be able to get something.
Right, exactly. So I'll never forget the gentleman that actually was trying to haggle. When I told him this is our process, he was offended and he stormed out. So there's a point in time where you're right. We have to really understand your customer. Now, obviously, CarMax understands their customers, but when you're marketing to the wrong customer, which is the haggler, they're gonna be like, I don't want a seamless process. I'm coming here to get a deal. So that's a little interesting point too.
Ash, going back to you mentioned the underestimating expectations. And I'm thinking about that word expectations, because the key on this is that thing that's not expected. It's the unexpected, right? That's one of the key elements of the surprise and delight. And so if someone's expecting something to happen, it doesn't feel as special. So I don't know, some examples of that might be, loyalty points or something like that. Okay, that's, seems like part of the process, or a flash deal, for some repeat customers, okay, that's great. It's still not sort of unexpected, or celebrating like a customer milestone. Hey, you've been with us 5 years or something, or 1 year annual. Great. That's good. You can do all those things, but it kind of falls outside of this ability to create that sort of unexpected surprise, that little something extra, right? So you lose some of the power of these surprise and delight tactics. So let's hop into some ideas here. So with the AI Chief Marketing Officer, we came up with some sample small businesses. And what we're going to do is use some of those to just come up with possible ideas. So in the past, you may have heard us talk about this vintage secondhand store. So I'm going to use that same one again as we go through this process. So let me read you some here and get your guys' reaction to these unexpected surprises. They're also called like lagniappes, right? Or there's a book called What's Your Purple Goldfish, if you want to dive into this tactic a little bit more. So some of these lagniappes, these, little something extra unexpected. So for a secondhand store. So the first one here that the AI came up with was clothing care guide. Provide customers with a complimentary clothing care guide offering tips and tricks on how to properly care for their vintage and upcycled finds. This added resource demonstrates the company's commitment to sustainability and ensures that customers can enjoy their purchase for a long time. So this goes into me, I kind of like this idea because it goes into loving your purchase more, right? Valuing your find a little bit more. This sort of brings even a higher perceived value to what you've gotten. You're supposed to take care of this item. And all we're talking about here is probably just a small insert into the bag with the purchase, or even using a QR code. I could see that where it'd be like, hey, scan this for some tips. That QR code would be cool because then you could also tie that back into maybe some digital tracking, for your digital marketing that you're doing to get some ROI, data in there. But there's ways, I think, on this one where it could work. What are your thoughts?
So I really like this because I'm a collector of things, and I imagine what it would be like to find that thing that I'm really into, especially if I'm into vintage clothing or vintage items, and then being taught with a little guide on how I can take care of that item. So I'm just immediately thinking of the things that I collect and the things I value, and how when I'm excited to get that new item, or when it found that item, if a store offered some information to educate me on how to take care of it, it makes me feel a little warmer inside. I was actually feeling those feelings when I was imagining myself getting the guide and getting all giddy about it. So that's actually really, really cool that I came up with that idea.
This is very timely because I just went through an experience like this this week, the opposite of this kind of experience. I had a small tear in one of my car seats, the leather, and I was like, got a quote to fix it, and it was like astronomical. I'm like, I can probably teach myself how to fix this. I went and bought the right die. I had to get it from Germany, and I got the little thing to patch it. And I over the weekend worked at this till I got it just perfect. And then I was like, I wrote to the companies like, okay, how do I make sure I seal this so it lasts longer? And they were like, oh, you got to put this sealant that we sell to make it last longer. And I'm like, why didn't you suggest that from day one? Now I have to pay another shipping cost to get the sealant. And I was so upset about that. I was like, so I researched the different sealant, and I found one at a local store, and I bought it at a local store. So they lost out on an opportunity to upsell me. All they have to do is educate me. By the way, when you do this, you're going to have to seal this so it lasts longer. And so, the opposite of not doing that, offering a way to care for the product you just purchased, or get a longer term outcome from the product you've purchased, it could really just end up costing you a client, because at some point they'll be like, how do I care for this thing? Oh, this is what you should do. Why didn't you tell me when I bought it? So. And one could say, why you didn't ask? I'm like, well, that's the whole point. Be proactive, anticipate. That's part of the surprising delight. Delight is also surprising someone by anticipating what they might need down the line. That's of value to them.
And honestly, on that note too, that was an upsell opportunity. But imagine, what if they said, hey, you need this, and for your first time, take it for free. It's yours, and let me know what you think. I mean, how would you have felt? That would have been a surprise.
Whoa, really? For life. Absolutely.
Done, right? That's what I'm saying. Now you're spending way more, and you're buying the sealant every time. I don't know.
It reminds me, caring for a product. It reminds me of when I buy like my Oakley sunglasses, and it comes in this little bag that helps you also clean the lenses and things like that. And you just weren't kind of really expecting that, right? But it's something to care for your product. And it provides a little extra value, but it also elevates the value of your product. Like, you need to really care for this, this purchase that you just bought. Let's move on to the next one here for this vintage secondhand store. This one is called Virtual Treasure Hunt. Engage customers through a virtual treasure hunt. The store could hide digital codes or clues on their website or social media platforms, leading customers to exclusive discounts, limited edition pieces, or even a free item. The game not only brings excitement, but also the brand further. So this is the concept the AI came up with. Again, I just input this one time, and it came up with like 10 ideas and in about 8 seconds. So you can see it's really kind of shifting to another creative idea here. And as we talked about last time we did this vintage store, it got the idea of a treasure hunt as being a part of the experience of vintage store. So it's bringing that into this. I like that this is helping maybe build brand awareness or engagement with, wherever your treasure hunt is, if it's on the website, people are looking around the website. But you could also easily deliver this. Like, you could mention this on a receipt or in a social post. And you just sort of set it up one time because it's sort of this digital adventure. So you don't have to do this 1,000 times. Maybe you do it once a month or something like that. And so you're doing it 12 times a year. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, I love that it gamifies the engagement with the customer and continuously stays in touch with the customer through this gamification. To me, it's a lot more effective than sending an email every day, with some announcement. That's actually not as effective as getting people engaged. And it's so simple. It's got a viral component too. People like to share how they're succeeding. People like to win at something. There's this natural desire to earn everything that gives us fulfillment in life that makes it more important to us. So It gamifies it. It keeps the customers engaged. I think it's a very good idea. Again, wouldn't know how to come up with that. I know a gamification works really well when it comes to branding, but not creative enough to come up with a game. So here it is, in an instant, some ideas that you can execute against.
And that's insane too, because I was just thinking about that. One, it came up with the gamification, but two, I was thinking the social media engagement. So it's encouraging in this idea to engage with the social media channels, which we know that, boosts the algorithm for Instagram in terms of reach, shareability, so on and so forth. So it's without really telling you, hey, this is the value. It's literally saying this is the idea. You're getting gamification and you're getting engagement on the social media channels, and we understand the value of all of that. So how it just came up with that idea, knowing all those principles, is fascinating. And I was able to come up with that probably. That was one of the many ideas that probably came up with within seconds.
Well, again, let's talk to this idea. If you hired a top-notch agency, creative agency or ad agency or marketing agency, this is what we do, right? We have experts, brand strategists that come up with these things, right? You have to pay for that. That's not free. So, and it takes time. Here it is, something like you could license and in an instant get a bunch of ideas that you can execute. So again, there's no excuses today with AI. That really isn't. The only excuse is not taking advantage of it. It's kind of like the internet started many years ago, and you're like, should I be online? It's like that. Should I use it? If you don't use it, you're gonna find yourself behind.
They're still reading the yellow pages. Should we?
Right? They'll find me on the yellow pages. Exactly.
And what I really love about this one though is it knew the customer like just really well, that treasure hunt thing, and it brought it over to a digital version of this in some way. And so someone has this mindset of, hey, I enjoy, whatever neuroscience is happening in my head here on the treasure hunt, finding this, I enjoy the rewards of that, and so now it's saying, okay, hey, let's do something a little fun. If you like that kind of thing, and it ties it all in back to the experience of this secondhand vintage store. Let's hop into the next one here. Okay, and this one, personalized thank you notes. Include handwritten notes, thank you notes in every purchase, expressing genuine appreciation for the customer support. This personal touch adds an emotional connection, making the customer feel valued and increasing the likelihood of repeat business. So this is, we already saw a good example of something very specific to the customer. I almost think this one you could use at really any business. The trick here might be scalability, like we talked about before. If I'm doing this, I've got 50 purchases a day. I probably need like that handwritten note, like 90% written out. And when I'm, taking the credit card, I'm looking at the person's name, and I'm just writing, thank you, Stephen, for. And that's all I have to do is put in Stephen right there and toss it in with the purchase. What do you guys think on this one?
So I have an optometrist who did this with me, and it was interesting. I didn't think about it at the time, other than I felt all warm inside, and it was so nice. I'm still going to that doctor despite having eye insurance, because she wrote me a nice note, and she acknowledged the conversation we had. I remember I was telling her I was going on a trip. She said, I hope you had a great time on your trip, gave specifics. And I was like, wow, this Dr. Wall, you really listened to my story. And I ended up booking my appointment right after I got that note, which was really funny. But to your point, it's not scalable if you have, you have to have a system in place if you're trying to send a thank you note to, 50 transactions, whereas it's a smaller clinic where she's trying to have a personal connection with all of her patients. I think the thank you note for that specific business was, one, really doable, but highly, highly effective, especially in a very compassionate, focused industry.
Now, I like it when it's just simple too, but I really like it when it's it tells a story too. I have a charity that I contribute to, and I get a letter that describes how the funds are being used. And every month is a different description on how the funds are being used and projects they're working on. And so it makes it feel like the money's actionable. It gives real tangible outcome. It's not just something that goes there and I know I'm doing a good thing, but it's actually connecting me to the sort of finish line of how the funds are being used. So in a retail or a business environment, telling the story, just a personal story about, your business. This is what it means to us. You were able to train our staff or hire more people. And this is an opportunity we created for Maria down in Colombia. She now takes care of her elderly parents. I mean, things very personal like that tells the story that there's people behind what we're doing. And you doing business with us generates outcomes for families as well. So if there's any opportunity to personalize some of these thank you notes, to actually tell a little bit of story, but the scene behind the scenes of the business, it really connects the buyers and the customers to the people. And the more you can do that, where it's the connection is people to people, the more effective it will be. And handwriting it makes it that much more human. So it's a very powerful way to do that. And if you leverage it correctly as well.
I think, this just brings to mind to me too, is when you're at a restaurant, the server at the end of the meal, sometimes they write like just a small thank you. It's almost expected now to where you ignore it, or you might see a little happy face or something on there, and it gives you a little bit of, it feels like there's this missed opportunity to do something a little extra there. I know they used to bring, like most about every restaurant used to bring like some mints on your check tray, and I think that's gone away. It's now like some communal bucket at the beginning of at the restaurant exit. But yeah, sometimes you'd get like the really fancy mint or something, right? And it does give you a little something there, but it feels like there's almost this missed opportunity for restaurants to maybe just go like a little bit extra with what they're doing on that final, especially if you're a server and you're working on tips. I mean,
yeah,
I could see, I'm curious now to run through this idea through the AI CMO just to see, hey, here's my situation. What would you suggest doing in that scenario, just to get some creative ideas?
You just gave me a great idea for restaurants. How many times you go have a meal and you just love the dressing or the sauce they use or some kind of a condiment, something that's like special and unique to them. And you're like, I wish you guys could bottle this. I'd buy it, right? Imagine those customers who express that, to just give them a little sample. It's like, hey, here's a little sample. Take that home with you. It's a gift from us. I mean, that's such a small little thing you can part with, but it would be so huge for that patron who's raving about how awesome the lime mint the salad dressing is. It's like, here, take some home.
Probably costs you 5 cents or something too. And I would be like, there was this restaurant where I had this marinade for my swordfish that was amazing, and I would like always get a little extra, so I had extra on the plate. But like, if I could take home just a little tiny container for some vegetables or something that I'm eating, yeah, that would cost them 5 cents, but the goodwill and like, I love this place, right? So
hint, restaurant owners,
right?
We're giving all kinds of freebies today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What was that show on Hulu about that restaurant? Do you know what I'm talking about? Was it about
the bear?
The bear. And do you recall there was an episode where they're being trained? I think it was the gentleman's cousin, the chef's cousin, is being trained at one of the restaurants, and he's learning that the actual waitresses and waiters are listening to people while they're eating and giving comments and then delighting them with those surprises. That was right there, Purple Goldfish, in like as a master class. If you notice that was really powerful right there to share that.
Yeah, that's an excellent example, Ash.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right, let's switch gears to a different type of business. Last time we did is a nursery, so let's do a couple examples for a nursery that the AI CMO came up with. Again, it's going to spit out, like, I timed it 8 seconds and it was like 10 ideas, right? So the 3 or 4 we just went through, like, that took 8 seconds. It took us 10 minutes to talk about,
right.
15 minutes. So to dive into. So let's read this next one here. So it is personalized plant recommendations. Implement a personalized plant recommendation service where customers answer a few questions about their gardening preferences, space, and skill level. Based on their responses, the nursery can provide tailored suggestions for plants that would thrive in their environment. By offering personalized recommendations, customers feel understood and valued, leading to repeat business as they trust the nursery's expertise. I love some of the potential here. So like trying to build a database on your customers' preferences, like with AI, as this data will get more and more valuable to you over time. You'll have it in your system, maybe just even their purchases. Hey, this is what they're been purchasing. This is going to tell me a lot about them, where I could come up with something personalized just for each customer. Again, something you could probably do at purchase. An easier way to maybe do it would be like, maybe you have a preset of a few different printouts depending on what type of plant they're purchasing, and then you could just say, okay, this is from this group or this group, and then you just throw it in there with purchase. What are your thoughts on this one?
I think this is where the AI can add intelligence also into the area the customer lives in. So for example, if you live in an area that have deer, you're very limited to the kind of shrubs and flowers you can have on your yard because they'll get eaten. And I remember distinctively, like I had to learn which were the greens that the deer didn't like. And it's limiting, right? In fact, you don't often have a lot of colors because they just eat everything. So imagine you have a customer that lives in an area that has deer and making recommendations of things that are really like colorful or nice, that based on their purchase history or preferences, that would thrive in the area that they're in, but also would be deer proof, right? So these little nuances could be a great way to educate the customer on what's available to them and also what would do well in their particular area. To me, that's a nice way to, it's not one-to-one personalized, but it's at least personalized to the area where someone lives based on their purchase preferences. That if I received something like that would have been awesome, because I had to do all that research and it was a lot of work, right? And in fact, I would have just loved to just say, here's where I live, recommend stuff to me, and AI can help do that and actually start to package it that way. Even following up with a customer saying, hey, you bought this in your area, this kind of plant does really well. Here's some pictures of it. Use the AI to come up with some pictures of it. There's so much you could do to enhance the way you support clients or customers on their journey. AI
can personalize at bulk, which is very personal at bulk. And that's going to be one of the key elements, I think, to its growth and adoption. Ash?
Yeah, I think it's an experience booster too, with this idea that, when you're going ahead and personalizing something for someone, when someone makes my shopping experience seamless to the things that I want and the things I do during the season I am in my life, that seamless experience really boosts the experience for me to just keep coming back. So the more seamless you can make it, I think that's a huge reference point of, I'm looking back at my experience, that this business understands my preferences in gardening. I don't have to think about it twice. And if anything, I could double down and enhance it and maybe scale my preferences by this personalized approach. So I think that's a huge experience booster. I know for me too, clothing, I know there's companies that they pick your clothing preferences for you. And I rely on some of those companies because I don't want to think about what I need to wear. If it gets down my style and it just keeps doubling down on it, then that's it. I'm done. I'm hooked. I'm going for the best experience, which is they figured me out and they made that personal for me. So I think that's the fact that I was able to pick up on that and give that idea is pretty cool.
All right, let me read the next one here. So this one is called Plant Adoption Certificate. Create a personalized plant adoption certificate for each plant purchased from the nursery. This certificate can include the customer's name, the plant's name, and a brief description of the plant's unique characteristics. Not only does this create a sense of connection between the customers and their new plant, but it serves as a keepsake that customers can proudly display or even share on social media. I love this one so much. And I don't even think you have to be quite that elaborate with it, even just like if you just named the plant, like if all your house plants you sold, you gave it a name and you put just sticking a little sign into the soil there with the plant's name on it, you could have it probably a little sign made up where, hi, my name is, and then you just write a name in there and you've got all these different names and just stick them easily in the plants. I don't know. It has more substance. It's whimsical. It builds this sort of personal connection with the plant. And by association, I think the nursery too.
You take care of the plant too.
This is just an 8-second output that came up
Oh
with
my
all these
goodness.
ideas.
Genius. Like, oh, I could see it now. Like, I'm not really good at taking care of plant, but if it's personalized as a name, you might actually go a little step further because you don't want.
Hey, you better not let Harold the plant die.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Seymour. Oh, what was that plant's name in that movie? So, but I mean, who could come up with stuff like this? This is genius stuff. I mean, there's got to be someone who's creative enough to come up with these things, and AI is just kind of leveraging that. But I wouldn't have been able to think of that. That's just such a simple thing. Give the plant a name and give it a certificate. It's like when kids get like dolls and they have a name and they have a birth date and all this other stuff. It just makes it so much more personal. You know, why not do it with plants?
Yeah, that was just like so creative to me. Ash, thoughts on it?
Yeah, I just felt like that connection piece to it because I have had items become certified with my name. And when I was a child, I used to think of this is mine, and people have that when they have that connection to things, they do take care of it, but they also feel connection to the brand. And I love that they're giving that as the experience to purchasing from that nursery. They're like, hey, you could actually make this your own. And I think you just build a stronger, again, ambassadorship to the feeling you have when you go to that store. You're like, hey, I feel really good. And I'm leaving with something that's mine. I think that connection piece is huge. And the fact that I was able to pinpoint that is amazing.
Yeah, and what we want our AI CMO tool to do is emotionally connect. And I mean, it just finds this connection right there. Well, give the plant a name, and it often talks about an emotional connection. And so that's just super powerful. All right, Ash, I'm setting you up here to take on the next company that we made. We gave it a ridiculous name called She Sells Seashells Incorporated. Ash, take away some of these ideas that the AI came up with.
And you picked the king of the mumbles to say this one. So, made up company. All right. So She Sells Seashells Inc. So the first idea that the
AI really fast.
Right. Customized shell identification guide. Provides She Sells Seashells customers with a free and beautifully designed guide that helps them identify the different types of seashells they purchase. Include information on their origins, species, and any interesting facts, making it an educational and valuable resource.
So,
this is a small business. Can we tell the audience why you gave them this one with this word?
Yeah.
Because it personalizes it a little bit.
Yeah.
Ash was a few minutes late to the podcast episode. And so we're like, okay.
But also, we're trying to help Ash slow down a little bit, so this would force him to slow down.
Yeah.
No, this is gonna wreck him. He's gonna be traumatized by the time this.
We're just having fun,
right?
So on this one, it's a small business, and you're looking for maybe a really affordable ideas. This is a one-woman shop down by the seashore, right? If I know the story, so she doesn't have a lot of budget. And easy to produce and execute something like this. It's kind of thing I could see on Etsy or something like that coming with your purchase where you don't quite expect it. Yeah. All right, Ash. Next one, Ash.
All right, next one is the Oceanic Melodies playlist. Create a curated playlist of relaxing ocean-inspired music and share it with every She Sells Seashells customer. They can enjoy the serene ambiance of the ocean waves while decorating their homes or simply relaxing. Consider partnering with local musicians to add a unique touch to the playlist. Interesting.
Yeah, this goes beyond putting the shell up to your ear to hear the ocean. It's again, I would have never gone in this direction at all. Like a playlist for music like that would have. Yeah. I could have been there for a day trying to come up with some ideas. Very creative switching of gears here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's another additional brand touch point. They're like, while you're enjoying our item and decorating, you can also listen to this awesome playlist that we have, just reminding you of our brand and who we are. So pretty cool. All right, so next one. Or do you want any other feedback on this one?
Go for it.
All right,
the faster the better, Ash.
Faster the better. That's it. All right. Seashell DIY craft ebook. Offer a complimentary ebook filled with creative and easy to follow DIY do-yourself craft ideas exclusively for the Seashells customer. This book could include step-by-step instructions on creating attractive seashell themed crafts such as wind chimes, picture frames, or candle holders. That's super cool.
That is
Yeah,
cool.
a clever way to get that repeat business or those bigger bulk purchases, right? Don't just buy one shell. Here's a craft that requires 50 shells and of these different types. And, this is a tough market that she's in here selling seashells. And so, how often do I have to go to fulfill my shell needs? She's coming up with ideas now for me to come back. I think that's
100%. Yeah, very creative. Also build your email list. They're like, if you're going to use a lead magnet or an ebook, we could go and capture some emails, then continue to market to that person when they're not by the seashore.
It's a perfect example of how AI equalizes. You could be a solopreneur, an individual owner, and you're playing in the big leagues instantly with the quality of campaigns and initiatives you have in place that makes people feel like they're dealing with a really professional environment that's going to take care of them. It's just mind-blowing how you can do that today a lot faster.
Yeah. Now
this is be able to do it.
Oh, right. No, literally. That's the fourth one. Weekly Shells of the Sea trivia contest. Engage the She Sells Seashells customers on social media by hosting a weekly trivia contest focused on seashells and the ocean. Announce a trivia question each week, and customers who answer correctly can enter a drawing and win a special seashell-themed prize, such as a decorative seashell display or a gift card for future purchases. This is great for social media engagement and growing your social media channels when you're looking for ideas of how do we grow our Instagrams, our TikToks, and our Facebook pages, and so on and so forth, or YouTube channels. But in the case of social media, Instagram and Facebook, this is great. You could capture so much attention and growth and following by having these little contests and trivia.
Yeah, it's gamifying it. It's engaging. It's there's rewards associated with it. You could see the whole family getting involved. There's so much to it. This is probably one of the most powerful marketing tool that this Seashells by the Seashell Inc. can institute.
Now, there's one idea. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, if nothing else, you'll become an expert at seashells and trivia related to it. And maybe you'll learn some fact that you'll share, and it'll become a word of mouth sort of marketing process by going through this. All right, Ash, AI CMO isn't always perfect.
Nope. And this was not so great. So definitely it's a good idea to always have some discernment. This idea is right. It's complimentary shell cleaning and maintenance kit. Provide seashells customers a small kit containing basic tools and instructions for cleaning and preserving their seashell decorations. Include a soft brush, cleaning solution, and tips for maintaining their shells' beauty over time. This Lagniapi shows She Sells Seashells' commitment to customer satisfaction helps ensure the longevity of their purchases. So this is cool, but I can see this being a little expensive.
Well, the first time I read this, I was like, well, that's kind of clever. And then I was like, wait a minute. Who needs to clean and preserve their seashell? What madness is this? What's going on here? So we gave it kind of a ridiculous, tough assignment. It did all right with that. We kind of threw out this made-up company, She Sells Seashells Incorporated. I killed that right there. And it came up with some creative ideas.
Yeah.
So we're done. Ash, you made it through there. You survived. Good work. Good work. I want to switch gears a little from our marketing topics and get into another topic that came up at dinner recently with a friend who helps run a company with about 1,000 employees. So next episode is the future of business about helping your employees self-actualize. Here's a wild thought. AI will push a lot of companies to a 4-day work week in the US, but maybe that 5th day is about personal development. So are we talking years away or a century away? Will the sole purpose of business no longer be about maximizing profits, but maximizing profits and people? Find out next time on the Bliss Business Podcast.